basically, we're like a mini Disney World. You know, we have these character actors that come. We have stilt walkers. We just had some Transformers guys come the other day. Someone had emailed and said they wanted to have their wedding reception in the parking lot of the food truck park. Like, a lot of these people are coming here and they're hanging out at the food truck park. Once they find out they can have their storage stuff here, they're going to come all the time.
Hey everybody, James Shepard here with another edition of the Self Storage Insight Podcast. I've got a really awesome interview for you today, interviewing Trouper from Hilltop Storage. It's really so much more than storage, and that's kind of the theme of the episode today is really thinking about driving your customer experience, but also driving your revenue and customer retention by doing different things. Now, I will say Hilltop is like on the far edge of doing a lot of extra things. They actually have a food truck business. They've got a retail shop. They have a whole bunch of things that we're going to talk about. So I encourage you to really dive into this episode. It's just a very enjoyable story going back in time and talking about his family and creating what they have created. But towards the end, we really get so practical with different things that you can do and ways you can change your thought process to get more creative and dramatically increase your revenue. Again, this episode is brought to you by CC Storage. CC Storage, which is a business that I own, that I started, it is really taking off. And so I want to thank all of you, those of you that are our current clients, those of you that have thought about using us. I just want to say thank you. We've never seen growth the way that we're seeing this year. I think we're about triple versus last year in terms of number of new facilities. I think in February and March, I think each month we're going to have probably about 75 locations that are being added each month, which for us is huge, and we're really excited about that. So again, thank you to those that have participated. If you want to know why it's so popular, it's pretty simple. The software is easy to use and it's free. So that's about it, right? If you want to learn more about that, head over to ccstorage.com. Go ahead and jump on a demo with my team. They'd love to show you what we have to offer. With that being said, let's dive into this fantastic interview today. Hey everybody, welcome to the Self Storage Insight Podcast. I'm here today with Trouper Arnold. Trouper is the ringleader, chief entertainer, et cetera, at an amazing facility called Hilltop Storage Solutions. How you doing today, Trouper?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing great, man. So I have got to hear your story. Your family has got, it seems like a pretty interesting backstory. So maybe you could give us a little bit of context on how you guys ended up with all of the crazy things that you're doing today.
Well, I could go on for hours. Our store, what we figured out did the best. Our storefront here is loaded with photos from the last 35 years of, all of my life, and then leading up to a little bit before me. But it all started, I guess, with my grandmother. I'll keep it brief just to give you the cliff notes to get to the fun stuff today. But my grandmother, back in 1976, she moved from Arlington, Texas to Justin, Texas. She leveraged her life and every credit card she had to buy 250 acres, which became Texas Lil's Dude Ranch. This was the country western experience. Corporate living. People never even knew a thing about what it was to ride a horse, see a cow, grill a steak. And this came kind of really, it peaked out, the 80s. I say peaked out. It really took off during the 80s with Urban Cowboy, City Slickers, these movies that, like today with Yellowstone, it's reformed our culture as to what it is to be a cowboy. And so, fast forward into the early 90s. I was born in 1997, and my dad built the world's largest smoker at the time. It was an 80-foot semi-trailer. We had to cook for parties from 500 to 5,000 on this property. We had parties like our biggest was Nokia, was 5,000 employees flew in from all around the country to this little town in Texas. And we had major performances. It's like 92, Willie Nelson performed there. 93, Hall & Oates performed. I mean, in its heyday, it was the place. And if you lived in DFW, you knew about it. But it was growing so fast, going into the late 90s. So my dad builds this truck to cook for all these people. And a short time later, September 11th happens. And completely, like a COVID, just changed the way business operated. People weren't traveling. People, the expenses for business, they weren't doing these large groups anymore. It was such a flux state of what do you do when you have, at the time, the property was 250 acres. there was probably anywhere from 40 to 50 people that lived on the property in apartments. We had a bunkhouse built with 20 apartments for all the cowboys to live in. So they lived there, they ate there, they had families there, and now we had no customers. And we had about 80 horses in 2001. So we started selling horses first. Then it was tractors. Then it was trucks. Then it was buildings. And then by 2004, there was nothing left to sell. And everyone that quit had quit, and everyone that thought it was going to come back around pretty much got let go. 2004, she filed for bankruptcy, kind of just lost the whole deal. But fortunately, that 18-wheeler was in my dad's name, and now he was left with one of two options, and that's sell this thing for scraps and go get a real job or make something of it. And so from 2004 to probably 2006, because we didn't get our first deal till 2008, I think was the first. But for 2-3 years, my dad pretty much put tens of thousands of miles on this truck for free. We'd take donations, we'd do disaster relief, anything that there was a need. And part of this in our storefront is we have photos of these things we've done. Tornadoes in South Dakota, we did hurricane relief. I think it was Katrina. And then, all of these different things, all of it was donations from churches, businesses, things. We would go out. Our contribution was the truck, the time, gasoline, just trying to get it where it needed to be. It was made to cook for a lot of people, so it needed to cook. And it was actually a disaster. There was tornadoes in South Dakota, I believe, something of the sorts. It was Mrs. Baird's Bread. That was the ticket to the rodeo. They came in. We did a 6-year run with Mrs. Baird's Bread, and that is what kind of opened the doors to the RV world for my parents. We're traveling around the country. We'd spent so much time checking in and out of La Quintas all around the country that it made sense. We were traveling as a family at this point. I'd missed so much school as a kid just traveling. So we got an RV. I probably was 10, 12. I don't know, I was young, and my parents fell in love with everything. They love the RV life. They love the campgrounds. They love the, getting to the spot and connecting with other people that were like-minded. And that's been the biggest thing and I say it all the time, like all of the customers that have an RV anywhere stores, they will all get along. They are the same person. They're just in a different place.
Interesting.
So RV living, we've had this property here that we reside on today. All of our businesses was purchased in the late 90s by my dad, kind of separate. They didn't build on it till the 2000s. And so as we're traveling across the country with this smoker and RVs and a couple other people, my dad starts kind of doing research, looking at these RV campgrounds, looking at storage facilities, looking and just seeing they're always, they're busy if they're nice, where they're located, proximities, everything. Just looking at all these different factors because he was able to tour the country. It's totally different East and West Coast stores. They're different layouts, different customers, different units. And so you gather this information for a decade. It carves out a pretty good chunk in your brain. Yeah. And I think 2012, 2013 was the first version. So I would have been, 2 years before I graduated high school. I wasn't really in the know. He'd made this plan and, showed it to all of us because we had 60 acres at that time, but no one out here. No one lived here. Right. When I was growing up, the town had like 400 people who lived here. Right. There's growth, we're right outside of Dallas, Fort Worth. We're right off 35, major highway, the growth was going to be here eventually. But right up to that point, our understanding was that a lot of the land to the south of us was going to be floodplain, never be built on, nothing would ever come of that. And so it didn't make sense in 2012, 2013 to put all this infrastructure in if we weren't going to really know where the customers were coming from. Right. So put it on the shelf, run a couple more years with the smoker. Between Mrs. Baird's, starting Mrs. Baird's, we worked with Wright Brand Bacon, Tyson Chicken, Or Wheat Bread. We did 3 years with the History Channel. And then the History Channel was kind of wrapping us up in 2017. 2016 was the last year. I graduated high school. Smoker was off the road. I went out into the world, got a place, got a car, got a job, and a year or so goes by. My dad's probably just bored sitting here, and we were at one of my brother's football games, and he looks at me and he goes, "I really think I want to do this storage thing now." And in this time, a neighborhood had just started, maybe 1,000 homes, right next door, but it wasn't going to necessarily say that those were our customers, because RV and boat people may be a little more southern country, and this is very suburbia. These neighborhoods are
Right.
very cut and dry, and most people that live in these neighborhoods commute into the city. They
Right.
have jobs.
Right. They want to live a little bit outside the city, but their job's going to be in Fort Worth or Dallas or something.
Exactly. And so we really took off 2018. We put in our original phase was 76 covered bays that was 12-foot wide, 45-foot deep, and they had a 30-amp receptacle in the back. So we were planning for big RVs, and part of that, and part of what we've learned is, you build for the customer you want. You don't build necessarily based on returns and margins and things. I mean, there's always ways to play into that, but you have to think about what you're putting out here. If you build chain link fence storage with barbed wire tops and no cameras, that's going to be your customer. Cheap storage, cheaper customer who just brings more risk and liability into the equation. That's for every customer. And so we built this place like a fort. We've got 10-foot fences all the way around our panel. You can't see in anything. If you were driving by, you wouldn't know what's behind these fences in any case. So first phase was about 150 spaces, and we had our grand opening 2018, 2019, and I think it was at 2019 we signed up 45 customers. I got 150 spaces. We signed up a third. It was very defeating, to say
I would
the
think.
least.
Yeah. So you're like 30% occupancy after you put all this money into it.
Now we've got electricity bills for all those RVs. We've got a bank note. We've got water bills. We've got all these things that just come, kind of coming in quick. And so, back to 2001, kind of ruined my grandmother's business model. COVID ignited mine in a way. Like, everyone around here started acquiring a boat or an RV. They didn't even know what they were going to do with it. They just wanted to have something. And some of them, stuck it out. A lot of people have sold or traded up or traded down or switched for a boat to an RV to an RV. It's in flux always. But by the end of 2020, through all the chaos, we were at 100% capacity. We'd sign up all the spots. So we went out, we built another 150 spaces. By the end of 2021, we were 95% full, and we've been there since then. Our covered storage has about a year wait. We have 100 covered spots now, and those are, we try to cater towards big RVs, big boats, or big fifth wheels, RVs and stuff. There's people that'll store a 20-foot boat in a 45-foot bay because that's what we have, that's what's available. And so we started to see a lot more of that, and that's kind of led us into, where we're planning for this year. And I tell you, I could go on for hours.
Well, it's fascinating, really. I mean, all that you guys have done is fascinating. Your family story. I just love business in general. So I just think it's so fascinating, like, the journey. And I think going back generations like that and kind of seeing, business is not easy. There's going to be circumstances outside your control, and you adapt. And sometimes it's just tough for a while, and then you stay the course and come out the other side. What I really want to dig into, though, that I think is so fascinating for our audience, which is mostly going to be these self-storage property owners, which could be RV, could be boat, could be just traditional self-storage bays, is, this idea of adding these extra revenue streams and these other things that you've done. So let's talk about that. So at what point in all of this, and what was the rationale behind saying, okay, yeah, we have all these RV spaces and everything, I think it's time to sell them other things. So what was the first kind of additional revenue stream, and maybe talk us through the logic behind that?
Well, so to get a good understanding, we started out on a good foot because my parents bought this place late 90s, didn't develop till early 2000s. We have our family home that's across the street from our office right now. But we put in this building that was 10,000 square foot that used to house the 18-wheeler. And so We had 5,000 square foot for our bay for the truck. We had 2,500 on the front for our kind of tools, mowers, outside equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had 2,500 square feet in the back that was dedicated for large prep. When we were heading out to cook for 5,000 people, we had
Right.
to prep sauces, meats, things like that. And so when we opened this place in 2019, instead of trying to repurpose part of the building, we went ahead and we took the funds to dedicate this whole 10,000 square foot to be remodeled. So the shop ended up, really not being much. We spray foamed, redid some electrical and things, but a lot of the money was put into the storefront and then our kitchen, because we had just intended this kitchen space. We had a lot of equipment was still there in good condition. It just didn't make sense to get rid of that.
Right.
The kitchen was not up to USDA code. There's a lot of things that comes with that.
Sure.
And so we would have never really made that. That's $150,000 just to get in the ballpark. The stainless requirements, the kitchen, the hand
Right.
sinks, all the things. So what we did was we found food manufacturing kitchen is something here in the state that it's basically it's a little lower down from USDA. USDA
Right.
is where you're processing meat and packing it and shipping it across state lines, all those things. So we
Right.
can't do that. We can't ship from here. There's some stipulations, but so and there was no plan at that time for that kitchen. It was let's just make it nicer so that maybe someone could rent it, or at least when we needed it, it wasn't just this raw space.
Right.
So moving forward, we go to 2021, our storage is 100% full, and we're kind of looking at each other like, all right, well, what should we do in this space now? And we had our first guy in the kitchen was a meal prep person. He came to us and was couldn't even tell you what the inquiry was about, but we ended up connecting on this kitchen, and he was one of our first people that started renting it, and that just opened the door to this kitchen has potential. But I'm also sitting in our storefront every day. It's 2,500 square foot that has couches and photos of the family and things, a lot of decorations, empty space. And this was definitely not, this was, post-COVID, everybody started cooking at home too. They were learning and watching videos. And so pellet smokers were like a boom during this whole time. And we had food knowledge. We've been barbecuing. It only seemed right to kind of lean into that. My dad has a line of rubs he's made forever. We've never really promoted. It's kind of giveaways he does for people. And so we said, okay, we'll start with the rubs and let's find a couple grills that will fit in this store. And, 6 months go by and now we got charcoal and pellets and accessories and other things. And kitchen's still just a food meal prep guy. And we start trying to brainstorm how do we get people up to our grill store, because our office sits 300 yards from the main farm to market road that goes through town. And so it's not something that you're going to see driving by.
Right.
But I figure, okay, people got to eat. So maybe we start advertising about food trucks that are at our store, and people will come down this long road. They'll grab a bite to eat, and then they come and buy something, it made. So we did food trucks in the parking lot for probably not even a month before we were like, this is something, because the food trucks wanted to rent the kitchen now. They were like, well, hey, I need to store stuff too. And well, hey, can I come up here more often? And I'm thinking, okay, now there's potential for these guys, because in the food truck world, you've got basically neighborhood events, corporate offices, or paid places. You pay to park somewhere and you set up and go. And so we, still 300 yards off the road. The traffic was good, but it could be better. We've got 25,000 cars a day in 2021 driving down this road. I'm like, we got way more potential here. So what we've done was we were going to make an expansion all the way up on the road, tie in a new electrical meter, and put a monument sign in that would advertise barbecue grills, pellets, RV storage, things that are up the road.
Right.
But simultaneously, it was like, okay, let's just put in a couple plugs for these food trucks and see what happens.
Yeah.
And that was like it was overnight. The first 2-3 days, these food trucks weren't making it 3 hours before they were running out of food. And so there was no food out here. We had no development at that time, no restaurants or anything. Since then, there's been a couple open, but people don't want McDonald's and Chick-fil-A 7 days a week. It's just
Right.
not.
Right. Want something different. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, it's a very diverse area. There's people from California, New York, Florida, North. I mean, they're all over. And
Mhm.
so, you can't necessarily say, okay, tacos, burgers, barbecue. That's what we're going to have. Like, there's a lot of options out there. And so, my
Right.
wife, this was kind of when she stepped into the picture. I'm like, hey, go find more food trucks. Like, go see what's out there. Go join these Facebook groups and see
Yeah.
who's coming out, who's in this area, who's willing to come out one time and see. And that was March of 2023, because we did about six. It was all 2022, but that we started really going hard the last 6 months of 2022, advertising food trucks up here. So
Right.
beginning of 23, we said, okay, we're going to put a truck park here. Now it's actually a food truck park down this way, and our grill stores up here. We're going to like separate these two things.
Yeah.
So we started new social media, Facebook, Instagram, get an email, get a phone number, and I mean, it was me and my wife. My wife would book the trucks, and in 2023, it was just me and my brother working our storefront. So when a food truck came, I said, "Hey, man, I got to go move a food truck in." Like, I would do that all day, just back and forth. Um, and then eventually, it was trash cans were needed, tables were needed. People wanted to hang out and eat there. So for the all of 2023, for the most part, it was me running down there and just managing while she was doing the back end. And it was like October, November. It was this beautiful time of the year of 2023, and someone had emailed and said they wanted to have their wedding reception in the parking lot of the food truck park. Like, really? I
Not
was
very
like,
picturesque, but
very sure. So you see, you emailed the right place. But we had no lights, no entertainment. It was 10 picnic tables with umbrellas in an loose asphalt parking lot with 4 food trucks. We had a good view of the sunset, but the fact that they wanted to come out there and hang out, I piqued my interest. So I went down there for the wedding. I went and said,
yeah,
what do you
of
like
course.
about it? What is this? And they weren't even from like our immediate area. They were from like just 15 minutes up the road. And so they just loved coming out there, and they did the sunset. We have a great view out here. That is the Hilltop. We're the second highest elevation here in Denton County, so we got a pretty good view. But I remember it was like, and they had a cooler. They had a cooler full of beer, and I was like, I didn't care. They were having a great time. But I saw that, and it was like, okay, people are hanging out here with this. Like, what if we put a little more into it?
Mhm.
I didn't even know what that looked like, and
Right.
I started sketching just buildings, lean-tos. I mean, I probably ran through 100 different versions before we landed on what it should be. And so, right after Christmas in 2023, we took all the trucks that were in the park area and we moved them to the parking lot, ran all these extension cords from all of my power sources so that they could stay online and still make money for the month of January 2024. And we built the building, the shell in about 3-4 weeks, and then we moved all the trucks back in around February. And then I didn't really have much construction knowledge at the time, but we had a live construction site that customers were just kind of walking around, which now I understand is a no-no in that world. But it
Yeah.
worked out. I mean, the customers liked it. I think there was something to being able to see that progress.
Yeah, maybe they felt a little ownership in it as well, of like, oh
Yeah,
wow, we're part of something. Yeah.
oh yeah, and with this community too. I mean, that's where it is a community. These people come together, and they didn't have a space. There was not a spot between.
Mm,
There's 2 neighborhoods right here, and they're both built by the same developer, but they don't really cross over that much. There's not a
right.
lot of events together. There's no events together, but they're a mile apart, and it's essentially one big neighborhood, just different names. And our place was right in the middle. It's between the two places. And so we had our grand opening in April of 2024, and we built a bar in the middle that had 12 bar stools, and we had 2 like unisex bathrooms. And I had at this point, like there was the busiest night I'd ever seen down there up to this point was like maybe 200 people. And so I figured this was adequate for a 200, 300 person night. And needless to say, I think our grand opening, there was 1,000 people there. And it was like, that was the green flag in my mind. That was everything.
Yeah.
Everything had to be focused here. We had
Right.
to make this make the most sense because it catered to everything that we already did. I had a
Yeah.
kitchen, I had storage, I had dump station, water, air. We sell propane at the time. You know, it's all of my other business that was already running
Right.
had these food trucks that needed those things. And if I could make this food truck park as busy as possible, we would get more food trucks, more business for these other ones, you know, for the propane and other things. And it all just married up like a
Yeah.
perfect stew. I mean, it just
Mm.
everything. And so
Yeah.
2024 was a lot of learning lessons. You know, you can pay the cheap guy 3 times or pay the right guy once, and wasted
Yeah.
a lot of time, a lot of money figuring things out. But you know, we're at a place now. The food truck park is the busiest thing here. It's the most popular. It's all
Right.
the draw, and now it's people go to the food truck park and they don't. You know, it used to be people came to the grill store to get food truck food. And now it's people go to the truck park and don't even know there's a grill store back here.
Right.
So now we're educating. We advertise down there for our businesses here. We go down and set up grills. And we get around, but I
Sure.
mean, on an average weekend, we'll have 3,000-5,000 people come through here, and
Wow.
like there's the parking lot. I have about 80 spots in the parking lot, and there's always 120 cars here, it seems.
Yeah.
And so it's just,
Mm.
but it's growing. This whole
Yeah.
community, they have to eat, they want to have fun, and we didn't really have a plan for the aesthetic. And then, we saw like once it was built, kids were coming out all the time and they were breaking stuff, just constantly breaking things. And so we started like really thinking, what can the kids do? I didn't have any kids at this time in the beginning of 24. It was like, what can the kids do? What's going to help the parents want to like enjoy their time more? And so
Yeah.
we started bounce houses. We started finding face painters and all these other things. And then I had my first kid, and it all came in. By the time she was like 6 months old, I started to think about how many small kids were there. So we got a kiddie bounce house. Now we got a small kid bounce house.
Right.
It's basically like 1 to 3, 3 to 8, and then 8 to 13. And then we have a basketball trailer that comes on Fridays for our teenagers, because some of those kids, they don't want to be there. Their parents are forcing them to come out to dinner.
Right. Right.
And their younger siblings got to play. Well, the teenager wants to do something. So like now we have
Yeah.
something for all ages. And at the same time, the kids are having fun. Now the parents are having fun as a
Parents are always having a lot more fun when the kids are having fun.
heck.
You know?
Now, you go to our social media page, it's basically, we're like a mini Disney World. We have these character actors that come. We have stilt walkers. We just had some Transformers guys come the other day or a couple weeks ago, and they were, I mean, that post, we had like 500,000 views on that one picture of a couple guys dressed as Transformers.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
stuff like that. You got to
Right.
pique people's interest and
Sure.
keep them entertained.
So, yeah, a couple of things that really stand out about this that I do want to unpack real quick. One of them is, I think what's interesting that we don't talk about a lot in the self-storage industry is that a huge percentage of self-storage facilities are part of something else. Like a lot of people have a hardware store and then they're like, oh, I've got some land, I'm going to put this back here. They've got a mini mall and they're going to, right. And so I think what's interesting about this is the way that you kept experimenting to say, okay, I've got these different businesses. There's got to be an overlap. There's got to be a thread that connects this one to this one. And I mean, obviously your use case is very unique and different. But it, I'm just curious your thoughts on that. It sounds to me like there's definitely that kind of spirit of, let's not just do the same. Cause I think in self-storage, it can seem like kind of a boring industry because people will just like get their building, they try to fill it, they leave it alone. And they're maybe more focused on their other businesses that seem to be more dynamic. But it sounds like you had kind of a focus on, is there a way to pull these things together? Right.
Yeah, I think it just depends on, I guess, your angle for your entry to self-storage. Are you thinking long-term? Or are you thinking, are you trying to buy, build, and sell? And because I've met and talked to so many different people in the storage world, local guys, far away, everything. And I mean, it depends on your your model. And of course, like, you can't get a better deal than buying land 30 years ago and building on it today.
Right.
So there's always that, and from what I've learned, if that's your game is long term, then it's going and finding land that's a little further outside of town that you might have to sit on for 5, maybe 10 years. I mean, it's possible, but that payday will be worth it from everything. I mean, unfortunately, we had a lot of local family-owned storage facilities just down here in town, and a lot of them have been selling because they're coming in offering, and they come, and it's all the big name companies you see everywhere, and it's because the growth is here now, and so many of these mom and pop places, they don't, and even ourselves, we don't have a set rate increase. We don't do 10% a year. I don't like to raise the rent unless there's more to offer. Unless they're really feeling like it. There's been a couple times where we'll raise it, $5-10 a month because we've got to make up for extra stuff we've added, but it's added to the experience. The customer just has to come in and take advantage of it. So, and then that's one thing that I'll say is a huge add. If you go self-storage, which we're getting into the self-storage this year, that's our phase. We're doing 67,000 square foot, so it's about 370 units, and that'll be 2 buildings climate controlled. About half of it's going to be climate controlled, and the other half non. And but the amenity side, it's if you're going to build a 2-story facility, you need to build a exterior elevator that has drive-up access. No one wants to have to take their stuff further than they need to. And I've been very fortunate to have some really great relationships with U-Haul, which has like cutting edge stuff that they're doing that is proprietary to their brands. I mean, they just built a new facility here in North Richland Hills, about 35 minutes from here, and it's 200,000 square foot pod storage, which the pods is one of those that's, I think it was a bubble. I really don't think that it's going to be forever. It was a convenience thing, and it has a lot of people's stuff gets locked up for too long, can't get delivered on time. But the way they built this thing was they can come back in and frame up storage lockers when they need to, and multi-story. You always kind of think ahead for what does it, if there is a turn, how can I pivot and not have to be too far in to change things. But making that just always thinking about it from a customer's point of view has been my thing. Like, and my dad has always just burned that into my head. He said, walk in the room and look at it like a customer would, like a first-time customer that is, a Karen. Come in and say, oh, there's dust on this, oh, the toilet paper is almost empty. I can't believe they wouldn't change that. Anything that, even dust on the patio. If you got a rug in front of your door and it's dirty and people are just bringing dirt into the building, well, now the inside of your building is going to be dirty and dusty. Now you're sweeping, and it's just the little things that add up that make it to where the customer doesn't question the price because of the quality. And you can do that. Like, even if the guy down the street is cheaper, they want that quality. But if the guy down the street's more, it's not even a question. And in this case, all these big guys coming and buying up, they're jacking the prices up. That's the first thing.
100%. Right. That's what they do.
So, for us, we're going to get into this self-storage, and, I've probably had 20, 30 people that say, once you got a locker, I want it, and I haven't even announced it. This is just word of mouth, people knowing what's coming. And I think that goes back to the environment that we've created here. Right. A lot of these people are coming here and they're hanging out at the food truck park. Once they find out they can have their storage stuff here, they're going to come all the time. And now you get it, where you are, what kind of customer you have, what are they storing? You got businesses, is it furniture, is it inventory? All those different factors is how many people come in and out of your business. And that's a big thing. If you're just sit and nobody comes in, that's probably the better business. Like, if you have a lot of businesses, like in our uncovered storage, we have like 10 landscaping businesses. Each one of those has 3 or 4 employees. That's 40, 50 people a day that need breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Why not stop on the way out of here? It makes the most sense.
I love it, man. It's so interesting. And again, it's very refreshing having this conversation with you, because again, self-storage industry mostly is talking about, investment, finance. We got to buy land. We have to do a price increase. We have to think about the cost of our construction. And I think that, what you're talking about is building community, the creativity, adding revenue streams. And so I think hopefully our audience hearing this is like, wow, this is a little bit of a shock value of like, this wasn't what they expected to hear today on the episode. Right. But I think it's so good for our whole industry to think more creatively about it and say, how can we build community? How can we leverage other businesses? Again, as most self-storage property owners do have multiple businesses as well. And so thinking about that, I guess my last question for you today as we kind of wrap up here is, again, if you're talking to if you had 1,000 self-storage property owners in a room, right? What's your closing tip, or what do you think? Like, man, this is one thing that might be able to help them in 2026 to be more successful.
Make it more than storage. I say that all the time. I say, welcome, Hilltop storage. That was our deal in the beginning. Hilltop storage, it's more than storage. That's our tagline. We wanted the customer to be interested, figure out,
yeah.
Why do I want to come in there? Why do I keep coming in? I mean, I have customers that have been here for 8 years since we signed up. And I mean, they have sold their RV and they kept the spot for a year because they didn't want to get rid of it, because they didn't want to leave here. I mean, I've had people come in and almost like a breakup. They come in to tell me they're moving out of their spot across the country. And it's not because that they love me, I mean, they're not interested. It's because they don't want to leave this place that isn't experienced every time you're here. And so, I mean, if that's your model, if you want to build storage, don't build an office, make it all computerized, then that's that market. That's where you can't have high expectations. But if you can get outside of the box and put in retail fronts or drive-throughs, if you're building a full building, why not throw a coffee shop in that building with a drive-through? Because your customers that come in early, they'll appreciate that. They'll choose you over the next guy. Things that are going to change customers' perspective on storage, self-storage, whatever your industry. It doesn't have to be boring.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I love too your kind of relentless focus on the customer, thinking about their experience. I think everybody can take away that tip, because regardless of the model, ultimately you got a customer. There's a human being that is paying you. If you give them a better experience, they're going to be more likely to keep paying you. So, Trouper, this
word of mouth is the biggest thing for me. Like, I know that and this is one thing I try to teach my guys is a one pass, a U-Haul customer, you give them that free dolly, it's $7 for them. It costs us $0. They're going to talk about that free dolly all day long. That place me up, and it makes the difference.
It does. Yeah, I love it. Trouper, it's been fascinating talking to you. I really wish you guys great success. I love what you're doing. So thank you for taking time to jump on and share your story, as well as share insights with our audience today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that interview. I found it fascinating. Again, hopefully you got those creative juices going. And again, in the self-storage industry, we don't always think as creatively as we should. So hopefully that got it going for you. Again, don't forget to head over to ccstorage.com. We've got so many new things. We actually are in the process, I think over the next week or two, rolling out two-way texting. So if you want to send those custom text messages out to your tenants. But again, many other features. Love to show you what we have. Again, 100% free. The software is no cost to you. We also have a creative way of doing the payment processing, which presents a net zero cost for you as well. So no software fees and no cost for payment processing. So if you want to see what that looks like, as well as see the best, simplest software in the industry, head over to ccstorage.com.